Welcome everybody, lovely Tuesday here, Placed in Shelter with your host, Ryan Catarozoli. As always, if you're watching on YouTube and want to be a part of the conversation, join in live. You can always catch us 3 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday. Just simply use the link in the description. And to start off, let's talk about a little quarantine update. So Henley has learned how to crawl out of the crib, and I may have mentioned that before. But now it's a game. So every night we try to do bedtime and she crawls out and I'll catch her out in the living room playing in the kitchen. She's got a thing for going into her jewelry box and she'll put on like 10 necklaces and 10 bracelets and she'll be prancing around the house like it's dress up time. So that's been a struggle. And then Chase, his new thing now is to completely take off all of his clothes. So you have to go check on him like every hour around bedtime because otherwise he'll fall asleep, and if you leave him go throughout the night, he'll just be laying in his diaper, and I was worried that it'll be too cold. But apparently he's an exhibitionist because he refuses to wear clothes. So I think last night I had to put his clothes back on about 3 different times before he finally went to bed. So I don't know why. Confuses me, but he just absolutely hates wearing clothes. So reminds me of a Simpsons episode when Homer said, "Don't you hate pants?" I hope he tells us to burn our pants. But anyway, so we're going to talk about today's show here. And today's show, I am calling We've Got You. So I used a nice little keep calm, we've got you. And in today's episode, what I want to talk about is more about the wells. I know yesterday we talked about cold wells, and in previous episodes we talked about hot wells. And a big majority of our focus, like I said yesterday, has been how we can change things and how things are going to work in the new world. Well, I'm going to take a step back from that, and let's start talking about kind of the ever-changing wells market that was already there, okay? So what I'm talking about is lately we've been seeing a lot of consultants and a lot of dealers and a lot of customers specifying wells that have the ability to do not just hot or not just cold, but the ability to do both. And you can change those on the fly. So I get the idea. The idea is that in the morning, if I'm doing breakfast, I can have the hot bar set up, and in the afternoon, if I'm doing sandwiches and want to put fruit cups and things like that out, I can switch it throughout different day parts. I get that. I understand that. But here's my question. And you can put your comments in the chat box here. You can put your comments in the description of the YouTube video. I'd like to hear back from you guys on this one. But how often do you see this being used? Are the customers using this daily? Is it something they're actually changing from morning to afternoon to dinner? Or is it something maybe they're changing weekly? Or are these, is there a particular customer that is getting benefit from these where you see them actually being utilized to their fullest capabilities? So the question comes to mind because in my past, I worked for a manufacturer that did ovens, okay? And there was this old adage, every single school job that was specified always got a combi oven. And the perception was, remember I said perception, I don't know the reality, but the perception was that that combi oven was typically used in convection mode. Now, this isn't a knock on combis. They're amazing pieces of equipment. And it's not a knock on the school world strictly using them in a convection world. It's truly a question that if the perception is reality, they're only utilizing it in convection mode. Is it worth spending the extra money to have something with extra capabilities if they're only utilizing 10% of the piece of equipment? So that's where I came back to this question is, how often are these interchangeable wells being changed out? Is it daily? Is it weekly? Is it every single day part? Is it a particular segment? So think about some of those things. I'd love to hear your feedback and see what you've been seeing in the field, seeing what you've been seeing out in your part of the country. So obviously, the question is the extra dollars worth it? So we've covered that. So there's manufacturers out there that do have, for example, a 6th well, 6-unit ganged well, and each one of the individual wells can be changed from hot to cold independently of all of the other wells inside the ganged model. Now, I'll have you know, we've got you because we are working on this technology. All of our market research and all of the feedback that we've been getting from the field is that this is a necessity. This is the way people want to go for versatility. So we are working on that, and we should have something to you shortly. Now, let's talk about what we do have to offer, because like I said, if the perception is the reality and people aren't utilizing these to their fullest capabilities, there's a chance that there's a better option for them. So let's talk about Hatco's hot and cold well. Now, yesterday we covered all of the extra features that you have on a cold well. And if you take a look at this unit here, this is the same cold wall construction. It's the same build out that we use for our cold wells. So now you can see the pans are recessed 3 inches, angled bezel. Depending upon the size, you have some adjustability with the compressor. Obviously, in this one here, it's pretty small. But the cool thing is you have the option to make it a hot well. Now, if you notice, the pictures are very similar, but you can see recessed pans here, and now the pans are lifted up. So there's a couple of real quick, easy switches you need to take from cold to hot. So you put a collar in, so that's what's making these pans sit up all the way on the lip like you normally would with a hot well. Now there's also a baffle that goes in the bottom of the well when it's running in hot mode. And if you take a look right here, what's this magical piece that we have? Now, for those of you that know Hatco pretty well, this is one of our sink heaters. So we took one of our core competencies, something that we do every single day, and that's heat water, and we incorporated it into a well. So what's happening is there's 2 holes on both sides, or on the side of the well, and then it takes the water down inside of the sink heater, heats it up, and then it circulates it back into the well. Now the baffle that goes over the top here, that's just to keep it from short cycling. We want the hot water that's coming up to cover the entire well, and the water that's going in to then circulate throughout. So that way we get a nice even temperature. You get that steam to envelop the pans. That's the key to this system here. Now, if I have a 6-ganged well, 6-unit well, if I want it hot, they're all going to be hot. If I want it cold, they're all going to be cold. Now, I can put individual units next to each other, but that's going to get rather expensive. You could put 2 well units next to each other. Still going to get a little bit more expensive. The least expensive way to do it is 6 wells built into 1 cavity. That's going to be the cheapest way to do it. But again, if perception meets reality and we aren't utilizing these things throughout the day, and you can now take a bank of wells and make them hot or cold, and the transfer time is about 45 minutes at max. You can now go and do the same things, but you just don't have the individual capabilities on this particular unit. So just remember, if perception meets reality and you can solve a problem with something that doesn't cost as much as one that's completely individual, here is an excellent option that we've been using for quite a long time here at Hatco. It uses our NSF7 cold wall technology, and we pair it with one of our core competencies, which is water heating, and that's the FR2 connected. So that's going to wrap up today's talk. Hopefully you picked something up today. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we are going to go into our question and answer portion. So let's see what anybody had to say here. Jack, consultant in Indy specifying LTI. I have yet to see an FSD that says that they ever use hot and cold together, let alone the frozen mode. The problem is on a project, the FSD never sees the cost. I completely understand that. The food service directors are not seeing the cost very often. It would be interesting to know how often they were actually changing those individual wells. It'd be kind of a good research to find out from your food service directors if you see them. But great comments, Jack. I appreciate that. Nick, totally agree with Jack. I see LTI quick switch on a lot of K through 12 specs. It's a big one. And you know what? This is not a knock on LTI. That's a beautiful piece of equipment. They do a great job switching back and forth with the individual wells. But again, if there's a cost savings and you can still do a lot of the same functionality, you know, maybe there's a better way. Jack, when you tell a food service director the cost of using them when buying a replacement serving line, the dollars blow their minds. Yeah, I completely understand it. Same thing when I worked in the oven world. When you start talking about the price of combis, you know, the price of the combi oven might equal 4 convection ovens, if not more, depending upon, you know, which model you're looking at. Mark, if you need 6 wells, buy a 2 or 3 pan hot cold well, and then a 2 or 3 HWBI, which is our hot well. It's the best case scenario to meet the cost. So what Mark's saying is, perfect example. If you know one portion of the well is going to be hot all the time, you go ahead and buy the hot portion, and then you buy a smaller section that is the hot and cold. So therefore, you can switch back and forth on those two. Again, I think this big one here is going to be a lot of education, and it's communication. If you can have the right conversations with the consultant, with the food service director, sometimes that's easier said than done, and sometimes we have to, really push forward to have those conversations to see if there's a better way. Because obviously we'd like to save money, and we would have to put the best value to the money that's being spent, especially in our schools and things like that. So great conversation today, guys. Any other questions? All right, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen again for the whole reason everybody shows up today. We've got a couple of good memes for everyone today. A couple of them are coming in from, once again, the master of memes, Charlene Brennis, but I've got a special one right off the bat from April over at Professional Reps, so thank you, April. And this one here this one hit me right in the feels. I wonder if my bar is thinking of me. Oh, my bar. Right about now, it'd be any bar. Here's one, I laughed. This was another one I laughed out loud. It was similar to the Harry and the Hendersons one we had the other day. And this one says, all these commercials proudly stating that today, after your pizza comes out of our 450-degree oven, no hands will touch it but yours. So I have to ask, before COVID-19, what were they doing to my pizza after it came out of the oven? Oh, that's a good one. This one here, this is real because, this is for our northern state folks who had a little flurries in the air over the weekend. My biggest fear is getting a murder hornet stuck in my face mask while shoveling snow on a Saturday in May. Welcome to Wisconsin, everybody. The only thing I think we're missing there is the murder hornet. And there's a bonus one for everybody today, and I thought this was pretty funny. Pretty wild how we used to eat cake after someone had blown on it. Good times. I remember them fondly. Awesome, and that is gonna be our show for today. So thank you everybody for attending. I truly appreciate it. If you are catching on YouTube and want to be a part of the conversation, 3 p.m. Central Time, Monday through Friday, use the link. You can also hit the bell notification. That'll let you know every time Hatco posts a new video, and show us you're enjoying the content by liking, sharing, and subscribing. And one last reminder, if you have any ideas, topics, anything for the show, heck, you want to come on and be a part of the show, email me at placedinshelter@gmail.com. And if you've got a great idea, I would love to have you on the show. So thanks everybody, and have a wonderful day.